Well, welcome to EXPAT Radio. Now, Marcel has a great face for radio, and we don't normally do it this way, but we'll explain why in just a moment. I'm Bill Anderson. We're coming live from the Costa del Sol, and my guest today is Marcel Salazar, physical therapist extraordinaire, and many other talents and things besides. Marcel,
yes.
Welcome back to EXPAT Radio.
Thank you so much for having me back on the show. I've missed it. It's been a busy summer for both of us, I understand, so it's nice to be back on the show, so thank you very much.
It's great to have you back, Marcel. Well, before we get into our topics for today, how has the summer been for you? The summer kind of starts at the end of June here, really, and finishes in the middle of September.
Yes.
So how has it been for you?
Well, aside from having my kids at home for much longer than I feel I deserve, it's been very busy. So it's been great. So on the plus side, I haven't really seen my kids that much, other than the week off that I took. But it has been really good. It's been a really, really nice, busy summer. And I think the reason for that is basically my clientele tend to come back to their summer homes, their summer lodgings. Right. They move back to the area for the summer period for a month or 2, 6 weeks, something like that. And they remember that I'm here and they're thinking, I need to check in with him. And it just gets busy. In combination with that, I do get a little bit of the tourist trade as well. Right. And the tourist trade tends to be Scandinavians visiting the area, which is fantastic for me. Or I've even actually been seeing quite a lot of digital nomads as well, which is quite interesting. So
really?
People who are on digital visas, digital nomad visas, which means that
you haven't seen them digitally?
Well, no, quite the contrary. I see them physically, but they're working digitally, which is really cool. I'm a little bit envious of their kind of careers, especially when they're young. It's a great time to do.
Yeah,
great thing to do.
Yeah. And how do you cope generally? I mean, I'm sure you've got air conditioning. Yes, you have got air conditioning in here. How do you cope with the summer?
If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be coping.
No,
because it was really sweaty. So I mean, I'm blessed to be able to hibernate a little bit in here. At the height of the day, when it's really, really sweaty and incredibly uncomfortable, this is the place to be, because it's much more comfortable being in here. And of course, for my clients as well, it's much more comfortable.
It's necessary.
It's necessary, exactly, because otherwise I'd be sitting there sweating away.
Yeah, it's a bit strange because I've seen on the newspapers, this has been the hottest summer ever. Actually, I think it might have been one of the most humid summers, but certainly not the hottest summer I remember. I've had much hotter summers than this.
I agree, and I think it's the humidity that creates the challenge. So for me, the heat is okay. I'm all right with a bit of direct heat and warmth from the sun. Right. But that humidity makes everything more difficult because you feel lethargic, you feel tired, you feel your muscles. Actually, I've seen the reaction in people feeling much more tired because they're fundamentally dehydrated. Right. And that's what the humidity does to you. It makes you feel dehydrated, or it makes you dehydrated, and then if you're not replacing, it could create problems.
Yeah, I mean, I think for people that live perhaps in colder climes, they may never have experienced like 90% humidity and 30 degrees of heat. And I know in some countries it gets hotter than that. Yep. But still with 30 or 32 degrees and 90% humidity, 100%. I mean, you just step outdoors and you start to drip. You step out of the shower and dry yourself and you start to drip.
Correct. You're lying in bed and you're sitting in your own sweat. It's really unpleasant. And
you paint such a lovely picture.
I know. It's so. That's why I don't like being here in August, if I'm honest, for that very reason. Just the humidity. It's the only thing I don't like about it.
Yeah, but it's interesting that what you said there, Marcel, that a lot of people who are regular clients of yours come back for the summer.
I know.
If I had the opportunity or the choice, I would disappear for the summer.
And conversely, there are clients who are exactly like that. They're here in June and July, and then they're like, I'm clearing off in August because I know it's horrible. Or they're people that they live here, but they aren't here in August.
Yeah.
So conversely, there are those that are regularly here for 9 to 10 months of the year, but then they'll go away during the horrible, humid months. So that happens too. Yeah. And given a choice, I'd be the same as you. In future, my plan is I'll be away for the whole of August. That's my goal.
Yeah, but what people may not also realise is that you've got 3 children.
I do.
And they have extremely long summer holidays.
They do. It's almost painful how long their summer holiday is. But, you know, for them it's fantastic. It makes sense because they get slightly less during the term than the for example, the UK scheduling, so they get slightly less half-term time off.
Right.
So it translates into their summer. But, you know, I can appreciate that if you were in school and it was that hot and you can't guarantee there's going to be air conditioning, obviously, in your class, which normally there is, but sometimes there isn't, it would be incredibly uncomfortable, very distracting as well. But they do have a super long summer.
But it's almost 3 months, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like 90 days of holiday. I mean, my kids, the biggest ones went back to school literally last week. So it was the middle of September until they went back. So it's a very long time.
And it poses a lot of challenges for parents.
It really does.
Because, I mean, let's be honest, down here, there are not many families where one salary pays all the bills.
I think it's very hard to do unless you have a job that is all-consuming, or it's a foreign-based job, online, somewhere outside of the country. Generally speaking, you have to have 2 salaries. And if it's 2 salaries, then both are working and both are away. And then you've got a childcare aspect in it as well. So it's not easy. It's really not easy. And the cost of living, as everyone's experiencing, is only rising. So
and the cost of living here might appear, if you compare it to, I don't know, parts of the United States or Canada, from what I understand, the cost of living down here seems to be relatively cheap, but
it's relative.
It's relative to how much people are able to earn down here, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I'm very lucky. I have some clients that are from different parts of the world. And I have a client who literally comes here from Luxembourg because she saves money flying here, staying here, and using my services instead of using them in Luxembourg, because they would be exponentially more expensive.
Wow.
So she'd much prefer to be here in the sun, guaranteed weather, by the beach, getting treatment from me, and having a nice time, aside from obviously when she's having treatment, but having effective treatment here and spending less than she would if she were back in Luxembourg. So it's just crazy. It's all relative.
Yeah, it is. It is, because I know the prices in this part of Spain, probably all of Spain, I don't know, they've risen over the last few years. You know that when you go to do your shopping.
Exactly.
What used to cost you €60 now costs you €90. So we know the cost of living has gone up. And salaries, well, people haven't been able to. For you, for example, you haven't been able to put 50% or 60% onto the cost of a session here.
Absolutely not.
Because people can't afford it.
I mean, in 7 years, my rate has only increased by €10.
Right.
In 7 years. So that's quite a significant, and that's a conscious decision as well, bearing in mind the market and the average cost. And there are some that would consider my prices to be high, and there are others, the majority of my clients, that are like, that's very reasonable, if not below, actually. And I've had people tell me that my prices should be higher, and I've had other people that say, oh, that's too expensive, I can't afford it. So again, it's all about, what you're used to, certain household incomes, etc. But I've definitely positioned myself to try to be right in the middle, where it's not at the higher end of the session rate, but it's not at the lower end, on purpose. And obviously I offer packages, etc., to make it more affordable. But it is tricky to find that balance, definitely. And I appreciate that things like what I do and the cost of living, especially food, as you're mentioning, has definitely gone up significantly, more than 20%, I'd say. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, but when I'm saying what used to cost you 60 now costs you 90, it's maybe not exactly that.
No, of course,
But I know that when we go to supermarkets for the real food shopping, you never come out with a bill of less than €90, and there's only 2 of us.
And there's 2 of you. Exactly.
2 of us, yes.
Exactly. So I get a heart attack every time my wife comes back, and she's been shopping because she's had to feed our very hungry children. And she tells me how much she's spent, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how long will that last? Probably about 3 days.
It's sort of hyperventilating when you go to the checkout. You're sort of
trying to guess, how much is this going to be? Oh, it's much more than I expected. Okay, fantastic. But yes.
The other thing, and just talking generally about this part of Spain. We're in La Cala de Mijas, which is between Fuengirola and Marbella, more or less.
Yep.
But I've noticed that even for other things like eating out, now I know restaurant costs they've risen like everybody else's costs. But at the same time, I think in La Cala, I think it's worth mentioning that a lot of the new restaurants that have opened up are very much more on the
higher
exclusive side. And I'm not knocking it, and I hope they do extremely well. But I think what it has done is taken just the pleasure of eating out away from a lot of people, which, you know, it's like, well, do I want to spend €100 a head?
That would definitely be at the higher end and make it a very much more exclusive or special occasion event as opposed to something that you can do on a regular basis.
Yeah, I'm just imagining you and your lovely wife taking your 3 children out for a meal. It costs you.
I have a solution for that, by the way. Don't take the kids. That's the solution. It's date night.
Is that what date nights are for?
That's what date nights for, and we try and have as many of those as we can, and we forget the kids, leave them at home, and I would recommend that to everyone. So as long as they're old enough and they're okay to be by themselves, then obviously, yes, date night has become a prevalent.
Is that health advice now?
Yes, that's also that's lending into health, financial, mental, emotional, all the kind of health. It's a big solution. There's many services.
You know, there are parts of the coast that you can still do things like pop out for lunch or dinner at a very reasonable price. Maybe not quite so much on the coast, but you don't need to go very far inland. It's just that I've got very lazy as I'm getting older.
Oh, it happens.
And, you know, I actually enjoy having my wine with my meal. And if you're traveling inland and you've got windy roads to come back home, you know, it's like, well, I can't drink or one glass of wine.
Exactly.
And I do enjoy my wine.
That's the thing.
I have to say.
That's the thing. And you live in a nice, quiet area anyway, so you can enjoy that quite nicely in the campo, semi-campo area that you live in. We're in a very fortunate position that we're only 2 kilometres out from La Cala. So in the car, it's like 4 minutes down to the village. But we've got the feeling of being in the countryside, which is nice. So we tend not to eat out very much. I eat a little bit out too much because, of course, I'm here working and I might go and eat in one of the local cafes here. And instead of spending, it's funny, I was thinking about this the other day, instead of spending €10 a day, I could be spending between 10 and 20 euros on one meal for me in one day for lunch. And I rationalized that that's probably not the most practical thing for me to do, but it's easy to do once you've had, you know, maybe just a 2-course or something with a coffee or a dessert or a starter and a drink, and that's it.
Yeah, but it's worth saying though, Marcel, that eating out or having lunch out isn't a thing for the foreigners. This is a very Spanish thing. And you would in the past, maybe not quite so much now for a variety of reasons, but in the past, you used to see the workmen coming from the building sites and going and having their meal of the day out, which was always 3 courses plus a drink. The drink was nearly always alcohol. And then they went back to work afterwards.
Absolutely.
But, you know, it's a very Spanish thing, having lunch out, isn't it?
I mean, if you can find a place where you'll see those people, chances are it's probably quite reasonable. But you won't see those people in many places along here. So
not anymore.
Catered to the visitors, and that means the prices are a little bit higher. So it's changing, and I mean, there is a certain amount that can be said perhaps for quality as well. It could be that you know, within a higher price, you expect a certain amount of quality in return.
Absolutely, and as I said, Marcel, I'm not in any way knocking these higher. Sort of more exclusive restaurants, because I have actually eaten in some of them, and they are superb. The quality of service, the environment, the food, everything is superb. But you know, whether I could afford on any kind of regular basis to go to them is a different story.
It takes a toll for sure.
Absolutely. So anyway, that's the summer.
Yes, that was the summer. Expensive, long, hot and sweaty. That was the definition of this summer. But it was also very busy and great, so I can't complain.
So, what kind of stuff have you been dealing with over the summer? Has there been any commonalities?
Yeah, I see a lot of, at the moment I'm seeing a lot of upper back, neck issues. And what I relate that to very often is posture.
Right.
So posture, I feel, is greatly affected through the effect of gravity and weakening. So one of the things that I try to encourage and talk to my clients very often about is strengthening their bodies as much as they can, as often as they can.
Right.
And because my clientele generally is over the age of around 35, it isn't necessarily something that's at the forefront of their mind. So for those persons over the age of, let's say, 50, because of the sort of perhaps generational attitude towards the gym or strength training, it doesn't come naturally to them to think, oh, I need to go to the gym now, because that's not something they've done throughout their lives. So something I definitely try to reinforce and encourage is the incorporation and the understanding of the difference between strength training and stretching, and how important and useful that can be for longevity.
Yeah, and you know, I can kind of identify with that because up until probably the middle, towards the end of June, my wife and I would go out at least twice a week and do a reasonable length walk along the boardwalk by the sea. Maybe we would do 6-7 kilometers. You know, not racing it, but at a reasonable pace. But once July hits, it's like, unless you want to get up at 6 in the morning,
it's going to be too hot.
It's going to be too hot.
Too sweaty.
And then August, well, what do we say about August?
You're in bed and sweating.
So I'm very conscious that we're waiting for the temperatures to drop down a little bit, so that we can get back to a regular walks. And yeah, I maybe in my younger years I was a bit of a gym person, but I'm not really now.
Well, and I get this, and the thing is that it is something that can be done in the gym, but it is something that can be done at home as well. But it's not part of necessarily your routine. So walking is good. Walking is great, actually. But there are times and occasions when it is better for a person to consider other forms of physical exercise.
Right, okay.
So walking is great for multiple reasons. You're using the biggest muscles in your body, which are the quads and the glutes and so on, and your back and your abs to a certain extent. But when you do a regular distance or a regular route all the time, your body adjusts quite quickly. And so the strain, in a healthy way, on your body becomes minimal, becomes less.
Okay.
So what's really important to do is to vary that strain. So you change the location, or you change the speed, or you change the distance, or you change the altitude.
Right.
By doing those variables, you're surprising your body by giving it a greater challenge.
Okay.
And if you do that, that's how you develop strength and ability, aerobic ability, cardiac ability, muscular ability. And that's really important for the development or maintenance or improvement of strength. And that translates to longevity.
Yeah, well, you know, I did do this thing with a 3 kilo potato sack.
Okay.
You know, doing that.
All right.
And then I went up to a 5 kilo potato sack.
All right.
And next time I'm going to try it with the potatoes in.
Very good. Very good. You've been waiting for that one.
I've been waiting for
that one
a long
all
time,
summer.
yes.
All summer you've been hoping to save that one for this. I'm so pleased you got that one out. Good. Okay, good. So when you're ready, put the potatoes in and you might get a much better benefit from it. So.
Yeah, but I do recognise, though, Marcel, that you know what we do to try to keep a reasonable level of mobility and fitness is nearly all sort of lower body, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, once I get into late autumn, I'm going to be getting back in the garden.
Okay, that's good.
And we have about 2,500 square meters of jungle.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have trees to prune, some walls to fix.
Very good.
A lot of trimming to do. So
that is a great workout. Any gardening, if you've got the space in the land, it's a fantastic workout. It's often a lot more work for your back than you think. And also, it's important to build up to it. because some people will go straight back into digging a hole or digging a tree out, and you're like, oh, my back, and that's because you haven't done it for 6 months or whatever, and then you're going full tilt.
Yeah.
But gardening is a fantastic form of exercise for anyone, and if you can do it, try and do it in the way that. But if you haven't done it for a while, build up to the level of exertion.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to build up to because it just needs
want
to
to
be
do it.
done.
Yeah, you just want to do it. But I wouldn't suggest that you start with, for example, building the wall.
No.
Because it's bricks and it's on top, and you've got to carry stuff.
Yeah,
and cement
it's part of a wall that's fallen down, and these are not bricks.
Right.
These are mega bricks.
Right.
They're like this size,
Right.
and a lot of them have got concrete still in them underneath.
Fantastic.
And I don't know what they weigh, but I do struggle even to lift them.
There we go.
So yeah, I think I'll leave that. And
Great exercise, but build up to it.
Yeah,
Great.
I'll start with cutting the canes at the bottom of the garden.
There you go. Start off light, go on, do that for 2 or 3 hours, and you're going to be exhausted after doing that. So that's enough to start waking up your upper body, your back, and all that kind of stuff. So that's a great start. And then maybe after a couple of weeks of doing other things, your body might be a little bit more prepared for the load.
Do you find that I'm 66? Do you find that people of my age are more prone to upper body problems or lower body problems?
Mid-body problems.
Mid-body.
Lower back.
Right.
Back. And that's because sitting for long periods of time isn't necessarily as beneficial for you as it could be, because you tend to weaken the central part of your body. So that is the abdominal muscles, your lower back, your bum, all of those become weakened from doing too much sitting. Now, if you're mixing it with a bit of walking, that's very important, but invariably somebody will try to do something physical and then the back goes.
Right.
And so that's where you start to get this weakness. But to bring it back to what I was saying about seeing a lot of upper body problems and neck and shoulders, that is because people are doing less with their upper bodies than they once did, and so they are either getting overuse injuries, for example, from, we've covered this before, tablets, phones, even reading, being stuck in this position without enough mobility and motility in the upper body, that it creates neck problems. Or posture is a very good indication, unless you have a mechanical or spinal issue, posture is a good indication of weakened muscles.
Right.
So if a person, and I'm not talking about curvature of the upper back, that's different. If a person carries themselves with a very slumped shoulders, head forward, etc., it's an indication of muscles weakening in the upper back and neck and shoulders, that because of the force of gravity, you're effectively falling forward because gravity is making you fall forward, and your muscles are no longer holding you upright like they once did.
Right.
So if you do work that area and strengthen that area, the likelihood of you being more upright is higher, and therefore problems in your neck and shoulders are much more lower, because you're obviously strengthening that.
Yeah, but is it not also true that if this sort of middle area is stronger, you actually feel that you want to?
It depends. Yes, absolutely. It contributes to it.
Because I do remember before I got a rotavator for the finca, digging like I don't know how many 100 square meters with a pickaxe.
Yeah, that's a good workout.
It was a good workout.
Yeah.
And I remember actually feeling the abdominal muscles getting, really strong.
Swinging an axe, swinging a pick, digging, all of them are going to involve core, because you've got that inward and then rotation.
Yeah.
So golf is probably one of the few popular sports here that does utilize the core muscles, but because the weight of the club is not substantial, it's okay, but it's not really a workout, golf.
No.
But doing everything you've just said, completely different. The weight of the pick, the weight of the spade, the weight of the axe, repeatedly rotating with force, fantastic workout, very hard. Great if you can do it.
I don't know if I could do it now, but that was a few years ago. But
you can build up to it. Yeah, you can get that 6-pack back. Vicky will love it. She'll be all over that. So.
The thing is, I don't want to lose any more weight, but I guess if I build up muscle, you put weight on.
Well, this is where it's relative again, because weight is not so important if you're gaining muscle, because muscle is heavier than fat.
Yes.
So if you're gaining muscle, it doesn't matter how heavy you are, because you could have a bodybuilder who's short and muscular, and he's hugely obese according to a document, but he's not obese. He's got 10% body fat and a huge amount of muscle.
Right.
So it's relative to what is your body composed of.
Right.
So if you have got more muscle, you might be very heavy, not particularly tall, but you're on a scale, you're morbidly obese. But the reality, of course, is that you're just muscular and heavy.
Yeah, but I think a lot of these measurements for BMI and things have been
Skewed.
Well, I think that they've been brought into question about how accurate they are.
Yeah, they're averages. They're just massive averages. And when you have extremes of averages, for example, the majority of people, I mean, just look at America, over 50% of them are obese.
Are obese.
Are obese. So, I mean, that's a pretty big deal. Now, is there a large percentage of those people skewing the result because they're very muscular? No, that's not what it is. It's not a lot of them. It's not the majority, or even it's probably 10% maybe that they're skewing it because they're more muscular than tall, and therefore they're skewing the result. It is actually that they're just overweight.
Yeah.
So that is where there's a huge problem, and that problem is affecting most Western countries as well because of the overabundance of food and fats and processed foods in particular, which is a huge problem. And fortunately, we live in a country which has apparently one of the best diets in the world. But that is because that's the original diet of seafood and olive oil and salad.
I mean, I think people who come over here are very excited about the idea of following the Mediterranean diet. Yeah. And what I do see is an awful lot of young Spanish families now don't.
No, terrible diets.
I did a lot of work in my early years here teaching kids in their homes, and I was very often there when dinner was being served. And I can tell you, it wasn't the Mediterranean diet. There wasn't a vegetable in sight.
It was the American diet.
Yeah. And I understand it, Marcel, because, mum and dad were both working. Usually mum was running about in between things, picking up the kids and shopping, the whole kind of story.
Oh, yeah.
And then, they get home and they've got to prepare something, so it's what's quick. And it was probably more the American diet than the Mediterranean diet.
I fully understand it, and we even suffer it ourselves. I mean, my wife and I, because my wife is working too, then it is something that is a real challenge. Yeah. And when the cost of fresh food also increases, then you've got this double-edged problem, which that you need efficiency and convenience.
Yeah.
And if that is cheaper as well than the unprepared thing, then you're going to lean towards that because, of course, you can get it done quickly and it costs slightly less. Then, if you haven't got the time to prepare something and it's more expensive to buy those unprepared things.
And it is.
It is difficult.
It is.
It is tricky. It is tricky. But again, some could argue we're lucky here in that it is cheaper to buy certain products here than it is in certainly other parts of Europe. So,
well, we've been trying to save some of the good stuff that grows in our garden for the winter. And Vicky's, last year she made a lot of sun-dried tomatoes. They literally are dried in the sun.
Lovely.
This year she went for figs. So we dried, I don't know how many kilos of figs, sun-dried. And also we had a very good crop of grapes. We have muscatel grapes. So we have a lot of raisins
very nice.
for the winter.
So nice.
And a friend of ours came from inland Spain. She was staying with us, and together we made, in Spanish they call it pan de higo, which is like fig rolls.
Fig rolls, yeah.
And not the ones that you used to get in biscuit
No,
form,
I know those ones, yeah.
But, the sort of oval-shaped, solid fig mixture
so
with some almonds on the top. It's just a dense thing with the figs.
Fantastic.
Oh my God, they're wonderful.
Yeah, amazing.
They're wonderful.
Notice that you didn't bring those today, but that's fine. That's fine. Obviously, that's the future. That's not a problem. Just dropping that in there. But otherwise, yes, homemade and produce. Here, I am very lucky that I have a friend and client who lives in Coin, and she brings me fresh olive oil, which is just amazing. And she's got a number of different things growing in her garden. So when I'm lucky, I'll get figs or things like that. It's just amazing, and that's fantastic.
Well, we picked our olives this year, and we don't have enough. We only have 2 trees, so we don't have enough for producing olive oil.
Sure.
But we're preparing them for eating olives.
Lovely.
So
Take that every
a couple
day.
of weeks ago, we spent like 3 or 4 hours cracking the olives individually between 2 stones.
Nice.
And now that they're getting the water changed every 48 hours.
Okay.
Until the bitterness comes out of them.
Nice.
But it's a shame because when you go to empty the water's green, and it's all the oil seeping out of it.
That's it. That's all the good stuff, effectively. But if you're going to eat them or oil them, absolutely. Yeah.
So, Marcel, we were talking about, I recognize this, that my upper body strength is certainly poorer than my lower body strength.
Yep.
So, what do we do?
So you have an advantage in that you're a male. So the advantages that men have over women are that we have more testosterone, right? Makes sense? It is our gender hormone. What that allows is for us to maintain more muscle or gain more muscle even as we age. We can recuperate and or gain muscle, but it's not easy and you have to work at it. For women, because they have their specific gender, estrogen, they actually lose muscle faster than we do.
Right.
And a very common misconception for women is that if they do strength training, somehow they're going to look like a man. Somehow they're going to look instantly like a man, they're going to get muscles everywhere, and they're just going to bulk out. And it's a complete fallacy. Now, there are some women who are very lucky who might relatively quickly, and when I say relatively quickly, I'm saying over the period of 3 to 6 months, start to show signs of muscular definition. They don't look like a man, but they have muscular definition. But that's a very small number of women who are very lucky in that they just have the ability to develop or tone muscles very quickly. Most women, it will take them up to 12 to 24 months to really start to notice a big difference. But the translation of that to their body and to their metabolism, hormonal balance, body weight, fat, and so on, is absolutely fundamental. And it will improve emotional state, posture, as we've already said, general strength and well-being, and the science behind the relevance and the importance of strength training is just increasing more and more and more. And we know that it benefits men in different capacities, mental health as well as physical health. But for women, it multiplies for women, because particularly when a woman gets to a certain stage in their life, if they get to a certain stage in their life, such as perimenopause or menopause, the estrogen levels start to change and drop. And so that creates even more issues within their body. What they found, and weight gain is a particular problem. You can, a woman could look in the mirror after a month or so and not recognize her own body because her body has changed so rapidly. And that can be often correlated again with weakening of the body and an absorption or an increase in the uptake of body fat. And a way to combat the effects of perimenopause and menopause itself is to get into some form of regime of exercise. And when you do that, particularly strength training, it helps to protect the hormones, it encourages endorphin release, and it really is a massive area of prevention and protection that can improve for men and women, but definitely a priority for us is with regard to women, because Alstra, who is my wife, is now a qualified former pharmacist and now personal trainer specializing in women's health and working to try and improve those very things for women here in clinic or in their homes as well.
And I can verify that she has a fantastic body. I've only seen it with the clothes on, but her whole physique and shape, she looks like
the business.
Someone who puts into practice what she's teaching.
She does. And she is inspirational in various ways, but in this regard, she's very good at controlling what she consumes. she's very aware of listening to not just what her body wants, but what her mind says as well. And we know that when you get hormonal fluctuations, which of course every woman is vulnerable to, there are certain stages in a cycle, when you still have a cycle, when you want to have sweet things, you want to have fat things, you want to have fatty things, and so on. And when you acknowledge those fluctuations in those desires, then you can acknowledge that, okay, my body really, really wants it, but my mind probably knows that I shouldn't necessarily have it. So once you accept that, and it's important for men, I think, as well. I think men, we know of the effects that hormones can have on women, and then effects that it can have on us as well when we talk to women, or try to talk to women, or even just breathe around them. That can be a problem as well. Then if we're aware of those types of things, then it means that we know when not to maybe touch her back, or to breathe too loudly, or to ask certain stupid questions. And that helps as well. So an awareness of that, not making it taboo, and allowing a person to work around certain stages in their cycle, or even if they're not having a cycle, but working with them, aware of the changes of their hormonal state, can have a huge impact on the quality of life, general posture, body weight, and so on. And it does make a huge difference to discuss that with somebody who knows what they're talking about, and somebody who practices what they preach, which is to physically exercise regularly, to be aware of what she's consuming, but also to accept that the body changes throughout the month, and that means that your desire and interest in certain foods is going to change as well. And acknowledging that and learning about that is very, very powerful.
So what kind of things then is Elstra doing in her fitness work?
So it's a very good question. So it is about discussing and identifying needs or wants of the client, which could be weight loss, it could be to refine and define. So she works with an interesting variety of people. There are some people who want to lose weight, of course, and want to look better in their clothes or feel better.
Right.
And there's another group of people who already are quite slim, but they want to look stronger, they want to feel stronger, they want to grow their muscles. And there are a totally variety of women that she works with, which is very interesting. So there are some women who already look to the outside very good, but they want to improve certain definition, or certain muscle growth, or a certain routine of exercises, or to be shown how to do certain exercises better. And there are other women who just want to who want to protect their posture and want to avoid getting upper back pain, because they may have seen, for example, their path might have been that they came to see me. I got rid of their pain, but they don't want the pain to come back. And we know that it's posturally related. So if we strengthen the body, chances are that's not going to be a problem, plus all the benefits that come along with all the strength training. So Austra and I will work together, whereby if there's a problem that comes to me, if there's a pain problem or an injury, I will deal with it, and then Austra will do the continuity of health, strength, nutrition, planning, and then regular regime.
Yeah, and just to reinforce, Austra was previously a pharmacist.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So she understands a lot about the human body and how it works.
Yeah, that's a prerequisite for sure. And where that's very useful is from a nutritional standpoint, but also when medication becomes a potential problem as well, you see. So sometimes whenever you throw medication into the mix of human physiology, it creates confusion. So your body is taking medication to create some form of change, but all medications have side effects. And so when you have a pharmacist, this is the thing that a lot of people don't realize, particularly when you go and see a doctor. The doctor is the one that tells you what medication to take, but the pharmacist is the one that understands all the side effects and the ramifications of when you take it and when you take multiple.
Because doctors are very often working to protocols. So they know that if a patient presents with high blood pressure, this is what you prescribe. But they don't necessarily know exactly what the action of these drugs is.
Absolutely. And then if they're taking multiple medications, it becomes infinitely more complicated.
There's an interaction
There's an interaction and a contraindication. Sometimes there could be multiple drugs, and two of them conflict with each other, but the doctor hasn't necessarily thought about that or isn't even aware of it, and so that's where this prior knowledge becomes useful. So Austra is not necessarily working as a pharmacist anymore, but having that awareness is absolutely
this is knowledge that doesn't disappear.
No, and it just advantageous for her. So absolutely, and the client, of course.
And so she's doing quite a lot of work now, and also some online work, I think. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
On strength training and how else would you describe the work that she's doing?
What she's also done is we've actually created an app. We have an app that you can put onto your mobile phone, and that app can either have your personal training program, rehabilitation program, which will be prescribed by me, or a nutrition plan as well.
Right.
So that app allows you to have a full program of exercise, which means that you go into the app, your exercises will be listed. You can click on every single one. You'll get a little video that shows you how to do it. It'll tell you exactly how many to do, how many sets. You record that, and then that gets sent back to the coach, in this case Austra or me, and then it can be reviewed and monitored whenever we want. So that's our online service as well, which is really cool.
How do people access that?
They do that by contacting us directly, as we send them a link, and then they download it like they would from the App Store and things like that. So it's a personalized link to an app that you install from the App Store or Play Store.
And that would be to Strong for Life.
So to contact us, you either contact us through strongforlife.me on the website, Facebook, strongforlife.me on Facebook, or Fit with Austra as well, which is Austra's brand on Facebook or Instagram. You'll find Fit with Austra.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Marcel, it has been delightful to
as always,
see you again and to be able to chat through these things. And I know that you have on our live show, you have a regular commitment at the moment. So maybe we can do this again, and we'll pick up on some specific topics for the future.
That would be great.
Marcel,
Lovely.
thank you so much.
Good to see you again.
And you.